they say, every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC.
In a few hours' time, the Nigerian state will be celebrating 61 years of independence from the grip of colonial rule. As it is the case with many developing countries, the nation is still grappling with many developmental challenges caused by corrupt practices and other related offenses. To date, Nigeria has been searching for solutions to these challenges. Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. My name is Murna Barnabas Atiayi. Happy Independence Day celebration. In this Independence Day special edition titled 61 Years of Nationhood and the Fight Against Corruption, we shall be looking at these efforts aimed at fighting corruption, why they failed, and the new approaches ICPC is deploying to ensure that the anti-graft war succeeds. Ruth Awadi is standing by with updates on happenings around the world of the Commission.
Welcome to the segment on anti-corruption stories. I am Ruth Awadi. A retired Chief Superintendent of Nigeria Immigration Service, NIS, Imam Aminu, has been arraigned by ICPC over alleged forgery of academic certificates. The commission in a 4-count charge brought before Honorable Justice A.O. Ebong of the Federal Capital Territory High Court 18, sitting in Gwagwalada, Abuja, averred that the accused person had forged a National Diploma Certificate in Public Administration from the Kaduna State Polytechnic and a Bachelor of Science degree in Management from the University of Calabar. ICPC counsel informed the court of how the defendant had used the aforementioned 4 certificates to enlist into NIS as well as advance his career to the rank of a chief superintendent. When the charge was read to the accused, he pleaded not guilty to the 4 counts. The prosecution counsel thereafter asked for a date for hearing and for the accused person to be remanded in Kuje prison pending hearing. Counsel to the defendant, however, moved the bail application in favor of the accused. The trial court thereafter granted Mr. Aminu bail in the sum of 500,000 naira and a surety in like sum who must reside within the jurisdiction of the court. He was also ordered to deposit his travel documents at the court's registry. The case has been adjourned for commencement of trial. In another development, ICPC is to strengthen its collaboration with the House of Representatives in addressing corruption and illicit financial flows, IFFs, in the country. The chairman of ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasonye, SAN, made this known at the opening of a 2-day capacity building retreat for members of House of Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption and board members and directors of the Commission held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. The retreat deliberated on corruption, IFFs, and financing for national development. Speaking at the event, Professor Owasonye stated that regulations were required from the legislature to eradicate corruption and IFFs. He noted that the regulation of the cryptocurrency trading in Nigeria would help to prevent the swindling of unsuspecting members of the public.
We have chosen this particular occasion in consonance and in continuance of the remarkable cooperation and cordial relationship that we have enjoyed uh, from the leadership of the National Assembly generally, but more particularly from the committee, our House committee, and also the one for the Senate. This is not the first time we are having this kind of interaction. We had one last year in Oyo State, in Ibadan. And we used the opportunity to commission the Commission's office, the prototype state office in Ibadan. We have also had other opportunities to interact with the leadership of the committee when they graciously participated in the commissioning of the office in Sokoto State and most recently the one in Adamawa State. I want to use this opportunity to express the gratitude of the ICPC for this collaboration and this cooperation that we enjoy with the House of Rep Committee in particular, and also the Senate Committee that oversight our work.
He assured the legislators that the Commission would continue to cooperate with them to achieve its mandate of ridding Nigeria of corruption through lawful enforcement and preventive means. The Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption, Honorable Nicholas Garba Shehu, commended the Commission for collaborating with the House in the fight against corruption in Nigeria.
Because of Nigeria's economic malaise today, our currency, devaluing to almost 600 naira to the dollar is tied to this issue that we're in. And I think we as legislators will really need to understand, where does this action take place? Why are we having an improvement in the price of oil and yet our currency is going down? That is devaluing. We need to contextualize, and it is tied to this.
Speaking on the topic, national security and the opportunity cost of corruption, Professor Iu Alemika of University of Jos and a member of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, PACAC, decried the depletion of critical national resources with renewal due to corruption.
When people are not employed, when people are not provided services, what do they resort to? They resort to self-help. They resort to self-help. And self-help is not just about violence. It's simply that they lose connection with the society. They lose empathy with their fellow human beings. And what we are calling corruption is actually an expression of lack of empathy for your fellow human beings. I tell people, when they say somebody's in office and is doing very well, I said, by my little association with public office, there is no money that is voted, there is no budget line that is there to say you can spend as you like, and for your own self, and for your family, and for your friends. If somebody is in office and is doing very well, 80% of doing well is about stealing money meant for something that he had not used for that purpose.
Professor Jonathan Aremu of Covenant University gave an in-depth analysis of the topic illicit financial flows typologies, trade, tax and oil. While Mr. George Tiedenzwa of the Federal Ministry of Justice explained cryptocurrencies, money laundering and terrorist financing threats. Another paper on public service and integrity, including the NEIP, was presented by a representative of the former chairman of ICPC, Mr. Ekpo Unta. The two-day event also featured an interactive session between the House of Representatives members and the management of ICPC on ways to improve the operations of ICPC. The program rounded off with a city tour of Uyo and a dinner for the participants. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Murna. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
If you're just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go, Independence Day Special Edition. Since independence in 1960, there have been cases of official corruption and abuse of office in Nigeria. The damage caused has in the past contributed greatly to the termination of many government administrations. The military often cited corruption as the justification for overthrowing the democratically elected governments. The range and consequences of corrupt practices have been blamed for the progressive downtrend in the Nigerian economy. One area in which lack of integrity in government is clearly reflected is in the public service delivery. In fact, the general consensus amongst Nigerians is the belief that corruption is the bane for our development. If there is this awareness among Nigerians that corruption retards our growth as a nation, why then do we as a people engage in corrupt practices? What are the other ways through which we can come out of this mess? Let us find out from the street.
In my own little space, I try as much as possible not to be partaking in any issue that had to be fraudulent, being part of a group that will say, let's influence this figure just to benefit my own selfish interest. And as we celebrate independence, I know since I was a kid and I know the celebration of independence, Nigeria have been fighting corruption, and up till now, we are still fighting corruption. But as we celebrate this year independence, I want to put it out there to all citizens that in their own little doings, they should ensure to do the right thing, maintain or promote that value of integrity within their own little need, because it's a little drop of water that makes an ocean. So if we begin to do that in our own little corner, collectively, we'll be able to promote integrity, and the issues of corruption will be a history in this country.
So one of the things fueling corruption in Nigeria is the fact that people try to line their pockets, and I think it's as a result of the effects. So I have issues currently because of the corruption that's already going on. Therefore, when I get into power, I want to also steal money because, when I was suffering, nobody was there to help me. And so it's just that same reason, and that's why corruption keeps going on. And the solution to this problem is for us to start thinking about the community and no longer ourselves. Okay, say for instance now the trash I'm about to throw out of the door now, it's not going to only affect me, it's also going to affect other people in the society. It's going to make the place dirty. Okay, that market seller who is has increased their scale or reduced the scale so that they have a little bit more profit. Obviously, it's not going to affect you directly today, but then it's just that behavior, it's that discipline. You're not instilling that discipline in you, because if you got into power, you still do the same thing. In this little way you've done it now, they say how you manage 100 naira today is how you're going to manage 1 million. So that little money you have, and it's the same thing, it's just that practice that we need to instill in ourselves, that discipline.
So for me, it's expedient that we start looking at what is happening in terms of our procurement system, issues of open contracting. Have we started taking it as seriously as it should be? It's imperative that we look at all of the loopholes that has created that financial leakages, both from the expenditure and the revenue spectrum. Because if you keep them open, that one can enter into public office and be able to embezzle funds, and after many years you start looking for the person who has used so much funds, to suppress the process. So we need to start building strong institutions. We need to ensure that processes are stronger than they used to be, and the system is clear, such that people are not able to, go into public offices and do whatever they like. And there must be consequences for actions.
Welcome back. The focus is still 61 years of nationhood and the fight against corruption. Over the years, successive governments have put in place various legislations and mechanisms to deal a death blow to corruption and lack of transparency in government business. However, it appeared this ugly trend had defied all these efforts and is still waxing stronger. Busayo Morakinyo of Connected Development Code discusses these measures and the way forward.
I mean, fundamentally, one of the biggest challenges we've had in the country is the issue of corruption. And it's not too strange to us as a people. I mean, some of us were not born 61 years ago. I've spent at least half of that time on earth, and one of the biggest recurring question in Nigeria is the question of corruption. Now, the first coup we had in 1966, probably one of the reasons for the coup was corruption, but unfortunately from 1960 to 2021, we're still talking about corruption fundamentally. But one of the gaps I have noticed is the fact that when we talk about corruption, we talk about we're trying to catch up. We're not looking at the preventive measures. We're looking at that instant thing we do, arresting people, putting people behind bars. That's for the ones we've been able to put behind bars successfully. But we have a situation where corruption in the 21st century especially is more technical than what it used to be. So a whole lot of intelligence gathering needs to come on board. We should have a situation where the agencies that are supposed to fight corruption are smart enough to fight corruption, because corruption is simply beating the system. This is the 21st century. The fight against corruption must become digital, must become very, very efficient in terms of systems and processes. So, for example, how do you fight corruption in the civil service when all what you have is still papers moving from one desk to the other? Why not digitize, the system of the civil service, for example? Why not digitize the procurement system where people can be able to look at the end-to-end, issues around procurement fraud, around contracting fraud? So I mean, a president once said there's a difference between stealing and corruption. Maybe he was right in the sense that corruption is different from stealing. Corruption talks about the abuse of a system. For people who are able to abuse the system, people who are able to evade taxes, people who don't pay sufficient amounts they are supposed to pay when they probably import cars and all of these things. Those are big time corruption cases. And we see that people who are caught in these cases even walk free sometimes because they have the kind of financial muscle, to beat the system.
In order to change this narrative and place Nigeria on the path of socio-economic and political recovery, the Obasanjo's administration established some anti-corruption agencies. In this way, the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 paved way for the establishment of ICPC. What is the Commission doing differently to ensure this anti-graft battle succeeds?
You would know that corruption is as old as man, and it has always been with us. And indeed, from colonial times, every government has put in place some legal and institutional framework for combating the corruption that is a problem in Nigeria. And this framework, especially the legal ones, resulted in the passing of a lot of legislations. Indeed, almost every government passed a law and either set up an institution or assign responsibility to some already existing institutions to fight corruption. Some of these legislations, if you want me to give you some, in 1968, there was an investigation of assets decree. In 1995, there was the Corrupt Practices Decree. And all through the years, almost every 2, 3, 4 years, there was a legislation, Foreign Exchange Act, Recovery of Public Properties Act, and so on and so forth. Up to today, we are passing legislations to deal with corruption, especially in the public service. Now, in the course of all of this, A lot of reforms were made, quite a number of public officers were jailed, convicted and jailed for corrupt practices. A lot of looted assets have been recovered and repatriated. A lot of assets have been forfeited to the government of the Federation. The corruption in Nigeria is huge, bigger than many of us can imagine. It exists at every level, in schools, on the road, everywhere. And the public service especially is how did the first president, President Obasanjo, put it, the shopping ground for corruption. In my view, the way to go is every strategy put in place to ensure that the corruption or the corrupt activity is prevented from happening in the first place. And the regime that governs that is a lot. For all the anti-corruption education we are doing is designed to change people's attitude from corruption. And this is, ICPC has gone to the level of curriculum development to ensure that even primary school children are taught anti-corruption activities or education, so that at the end of the day, we catch them young and they begin to question things they see around them, they begin to avoid it, they begin to themselves become advocates of anti-corruption from that youth. And we can see how it is influencing the youth. We have had instances where children were asking their parents, "Daddy, are you sure that this thing, how did you get it?" And so that is one. Education, sensitization of the public. ICPC is engaging in a lot of that. Our program is designed to prevent corruption by affecting people's attitudes positively against corruption. And then we have the other one, which is part of it too, mobilizing people to rise up against corruption. And this is mainly done through giving people platforms upon which they can join in the anti-corruption fight. Some of these platforms are public service based, which includes the establishment of actors in MDAs. The actors are civil servants. They are able to challenge corrupt activities in their organizations and so on. And outside the public service, we also have the platform for individual citizens of the street who might not be civil servants, but because they are customers of government businesses, they have a stake in the MDA, so they go there. The NABC, National Anti-Corruption Volunteer Corps, they are able to challenge the activities of MDAs, and they are able to deal with the issues of corruption as they encounter them. Then we also have, away from mobilization and education, we have what we call the systems review. And that one is also very, very key. Corruption thrives in Nigeria because the systems allow it. You know, we have an academy where members of the public, civil servants everywhere go there to get not only trained on anti-corruption. Right now we have basic investigation course going on, not for ICPC staff, but for civil servants from all MDS. They are there attending, and very soon many citizens of Nigeria will be able to, on their own, investigate corruption, and indeed, the way we are going, we will be able to prepare cases for courts.
There is no doubt that these programs and initiatives put in place by the Commission are contributing to winning the anti-corruption war. Although there is still room for improvement in the face of new realities and challenges, ICPC is determined not to rest on these laurels until its vision of a Nigeria free from all forms of corrupt practices is achieved. Once again, happy Independence Day celebration. See you again next week. I am Murna Barnabas Atiai.